Today is a good day to learn about our legal rights, our legal duties as citizens. Some of us are students, some are employees, some are employers. So we all need to be aware of our rights and our duties as citizens. We have Sister Miriam. She will speak earlier or at the end. She's from CAIR Canada. Sister Bilqis, inshallah, she will introduce her. We have Brother Anthony. He's of course from St. Catharines. He has been in the board before. You all know him. Jazakallah khair, and his family. They have been doing a lot for this community. So may Allah bless them too. We have Brother Ziad Saski. He's from Niagara Falls. He will also be speaking, inshallah.
Jazakallah. Thank you, Azadeen. And thank you, Sister Bilqis, for giving me this time to speak to parts of our community and the opportunity to talk about what is happening in the detention center, and as well a few other things. Today, I would like to talk about three main points. One is about volunteering in general. What can we do to help this community? It's an extremely important aspect of being a citizen in Canada. So many other organizations and groups depend on volunteers. Not only our board, but so many of these other groups. So I'll talk about volunteering, how I got involved, and I hope as to be an inspiration for those who are younger, and even some of us who are a little bit older, to get out into the community and help out. Also, I'd like to speak about what is happening in the detention center, the people that I meet, what I'm going through, and give you an idea of what is happening there. And I've been doing that for 3 years, and I'll give you 3 examples of people who are there right now and what they're undergoing. Of course, I will not mention any names. That's a confidentiality that they share with me. And then finally, what we can do as citizens to make our situation better here in Canada. It's extremely important, and in that sense that if there are people that you care about, they may come across the detention center in a way that would surprise you. And if you're a little bit prepared, and Sister Miriam will be detailing that, then you'll know what your rights are. You'll know how to handle the situation. But I'll talk about that just in brief. I see here a few members of our community. I wish it was half of our community. Because even this morning, as I listened to a radio program, they mentioned that 1 out of 2 of us will come into contact with the law and require a lawyer. And fortunately, we have a lawyer with us today, Brother Ziad. He will talk a little bit about that aspect. But 1 out of 2 of us are going to need the services of a lawyer. And that was quite surprising. Anyway, to get on to my volunteering. I started out as a 15-year-old volunteering. My neighbor in Ajax, north of here, asked me to go out campaigning. Now, I don't know if you have any idea. I seem maybe not that shy. I was extremely shy. I was so shy, I would cry instead of answering the phone at 12 years old. I'd sit there crying. I don't want to answer the phone. I was so shy. But at 15, full of pimples, self-aware, I went out and I knocked on doors, knocked on our neighbors' doors, went down the streets in our community. And I overcame my shyness by just asking questions of the people. What do you want in a candidate? What simple things, but that was very tough for me. I overcame that. That was my beginning. Then at the age of 17, I started coaching a bunch of 8- and 9-year-olds in soccer. And I did that for 3 years. The second year, they asked me to be on the board. And I became the registrar, so I was involved in the sign-up. The third year, not only was I registering, but I had put out an idea to the board, let's start an indoor soccer league. The summer league benefited from these little ideas. Here I was, a little 17-year-old with 35-year-olds and parents, and even one gentleman 40, 50 years old. But I brought in an idea, and I was able to help them. They went from 175 kids to 325 kids. Why? Because of bringing in indoor soccer league that brought more kids, and eventually the benefit of the summer league. Then, over the years, after I came into Islam, we started a study circle, and I was asked to form a soccer team to get involved in the ISNA soccer tournament. So 7 of us recruited a whole bunch of other players. We went there 2 years in a row to the ISNA soccer tournament. We had a great time. And then the organizer of that tournament asked, well, I'd like to start a summer league. So the next year, 5 teams started. One of ours was our team. And I saw how it was running, and I said to the brother, you need to set up a board. I had the experience. As a 17-year-old, I knew what it was like to run on a board, how it was organized, structured. So we set up a board, and alhamdulillah, I just looked on the website, 24 years later, it's still running. From the basic organization, the basic principles that we laid out in that second year. And I realized as an organization and getting a number of people involved, it would not be a one-man show. And it became a successful league, alhamdulillah. And hundreds of brothers in Toronto have benefited from that. 3 years ago, a brother in Niagara Falls, Brother Ahmed Baba, asked me to come to the detention center and help out. And I was hesitant. But alhamdulillah, I agreed to go there and see what it was all about. And it's one of the most rewarding things I've done in my life. Many of the people that are there by mistake, or they've done an incorrect action, or they trusted someone that they should not have trusted. And now they're in the detention center. And they can spend months. And I know one fellow that's in there for years, 2 years, awaiting trial. He's not going to get out. He deserves to be on bail, but there's no one there to bail him. I'm going to talk about that. I'll talk about M. He is a Muslim, and he was accused of assault by a girlfriend. We know what the rules are in Islam, but some of us skirt those rules. And he found out the hard way, because she did have some mental health issues. He was accused. He's now 5 months, and trial is still a few months away. No one to bail him, and the complications with his immigration. And even if he were guilty of that, what she claimed, it was mentioned to him, he would get about 2 weeks sentence. It's now 5 months and counting. I'm going to talk about R right now. He ignored our laws. A little bit arrogant, a Muslim brother. He thought, I'll just ignore the summons by the court. I'll just let the court do their thing, and I'll ignore it. And he kept driving with a suspended license. He was caught again. He was caught again. Finally, they came looking for him. 6 months in jail now. He was freed on bail eventually, but now he's got the court date, and he was sentenced, and it's been months upon months. Can't ignore the rules of our society. We have to know the rules of our society. In my experience with the detention center, these are the common causes of problems that most of the gentlemen run across. Drugs, alcohol, women, and family breakdown. Now, what does Allah say about all those 4 things? What does Allah say? But some of us choose to ignore those things. Some of us forget the rules. And we can pay a price. And unfortunately, I see a lot of gentlemen paying a price.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to Brother Anthony for an eye-opening talk. 15-20 minutes can definitely open our eyes to a lot of things that we didn't know exist out there. For those of you who don't know what a litigation lawyer is a lawyer that goes to court and argues on behalf of their clients, whether it's a civil case or a criminal case. There are many different types of lawyers out there. There are immigration lawyers. There are lawyers that never see the inside of the courtroom. Those are the solicitors. Those are the lawyers that when you buy a house or you buy a business, they draw your agreements and they explain the rules and regulations, but a lot of them never see the inside of the courtroom. The difference between civil litigation and criminal litigation is very simple. Criminal litigation is between an accused person, and I do criminal defense. It's between an accused person and the state, the country. In Canada, the state is represented by the Queen. So anytime somebody's accused of the crime, you will see the heading as the Queen versus Ziad, for example. Civil litigation is a sort of a dispute between two individuals. It has nothing to do with the state. So, for example, if you enter into a contract with someone to cut your grass and you go in and you have your grass cut, but you don't like how your grass is cut and you don't pay them for the bill, they can sue you, and then you are in the midst of a civil litigation. As Muslims, it is our duty to respect each other, and it's also a duty to be fair to each other at all times, and it's also our duty to obey the rules and regulations and the laws of the country in which we live. What I find is the biggest barrier, and I'm strictly speaking on the criminal sense, that the biggest barrier to access to justice is the costs. And Brother Anthony is correct, and if you don't qualify for legal aid, you are going to have to pay a lot of money to have a lawyer represent you. For a lot of our brothers and sisters, for example, that are new to this country, as Brother Anthony said, they're going to have a very tough time making bail. And if you do not have a proper surety, a surety is a person who's going to go in front of the judge and say, I will make sure that this person stays away from the complainant, and I will make sure that this person doesn't do anything wrong until his or her trial. But if they don't have such a person who's going to come forward and in a lot of cases have to pledge $5,000 or $10,000 to keep their promise, guess what? There's nowhere else you're going to go, but you're going to go back to jail. And our criminal system is so boggled down with trials and with people that we just simply cannot catch up and have all of these people go through the system. So therefore, you're looking at a minimum of 7 months before you're going to see a trial. In some cases, that could be quicker if the person is incarcerated, is in jail. But it's very, very tough.
Okay. How many of you have heard of CAIR-CAN before? Okay, I'm glad, that's good. So we have our office, which is based in Ottawa, and I'm a part-time employee. I work from home. I've been working as a home-based employee for the past 8 years for CAIR-CAN. I live in Milton, so that's where I work from. For the agenda for today, I'm going to give you a quick introduction on CAIR-CAN, who we are, what we do, and how we do it. I will also talk about why it is important to know our rights and responsibilities. I'll do a little bit of a terminology on the language of rights, and if there's any more legal questions, I'm glad that we have an in-house lawyer who can address these issues in the question and answer session. The practical application and implementation of these rights, and what to do if something, if you feel that you've been discriminated against or a hate crime has been committed against you. So if there's two things that I want you to learn from today and walk away with is, first, most importantly, is that knowledge is power. Very simply put. We cannot help ourselves or our community unless we are aware of our rights and our responsibilities as Canadian residents, not even citizens, but Canadian residents. And secondly, that rights go hand in hand with responsibility. We cannot sit here and demand our rights and ask for all these things if we're not going to be contributing members of society. Alhamdulillah, we've been raised in a country, for most of us, we've been raised pretty much our whole lives here. We've never had to fight for our rights. For people who have had to fight for their rights, such as Rosa Parks, it was a huge movement. It was a huge deal. People have gone to endless limits, endless resources to get their rights. And so they have really come to understand and appreciate their rights. Sometimes when we are given these rights offhand, we don't really appreciate them or don't fully implement them or exercise our duties and responsibilities. So it's really important to know about our rights. Therefore, we can contribute back to society as responsible members. So, CAIR-CAN. We are a national nonprofit Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. As I mentioned, we're based in Ottawa. We are currently 3 staff members. I'm part-time, we have 2 full-time, and we have a board. And that's basically it for, and we're a national organization. So we are sometimes a little bit, bogged down with limited resources, but we try to do as best as we can. We have a great team of volunteers who help us with our legal board, and I will come back to that in the end, how you can help us. Our vision is to be a leading voice that enriches Canadian society through Muslim civil engagement and through the promotion of human rights. The way we achieve these are in areas of civil rights and anti-discrimination initiatives, media relations, public advocacy, community education, and outreach such as events like this, as well as through other partnering with other social justice organizations on joint projects. So an example of that is that CAIR-CAN is a member of the ICLMG, which is the International Civil Liberties Monitoring Group, which is comprised of 40 other organizations, including Amnesty International. So we work together with them on joint initiatives for civil rights that affect all Canadians, not just specifically Muslims. There are a few high-profile cases that we've worked on, alhamdulillah, but there are a lot of other cases that go on. Sometimes people are always asking, hey, what's CAIR-CAN working on? Haven't seen you in the news lately. Doesn't mean we're not doing anything, but sometimes we're working on smaller cases, disputes, or employment-based or issues, accommodation issues, whatnot, which are behind the scenes, which are confidential. We can't really publicize them. So at any given time, the number can vary. So maybe about 20 to 30 cases we're currently working on. And sometimes these cases are resolved within a few months. Sometimes it takes longer. It just depends on how willing both parties are. Like if you have filed a complaint with us, we can only do it as fast as you can help us with providing the information, contacting your place of employment, etc. in the case of employment-based discrimination. The other work that we do is media engagement, which is another more popular aspect of our work. We do media watch. Does anybody subscribe to our email list? The media watch that comes out every Friday? Okay, great. So if you want to know what's going on with the Muslim community or what's going on with issues or current events that deal with or directly impact the Muslim community, I strongly suggest you sign up to our media watch. We send 1 email every week with the media watch, and sometimes if there's a good news alert or an action alert, we send an additional email, but it's no more than 3 emails a week at max. Usually it's about 1 to 2 emails. And it's basically a summary of all the current events that are going on. So part of my job is every day I search the media, I look for articles or events or whatever that's related to the Muslim community, and I compile it. And at the end, on every Friday, I compile a list of the top 20, and we send these out to the community. So it's a great way, if you don't have the time to search through the newspapers and whatnot, great way just to get 1 email, just skim through it. You can see the headings, read the articles that you're more interested in, and be aware of what's going on. If there's any bills that are coming in, controversial, anti-terrorist laws or whatnot, it's a great way to be connected and in the know of what's going on. Alhamdulillah, we have 122 op-eds published to date. Are you familiar with what an op-ed is? It's a feature piece that our staff writes or our board writes, and then we send it out to various newspapers and ask them to publish it. So it's on their discretion, and alhamdulillah, till today we have now it's 123 because we had another one published this morning, alhamdulillah. So it's a great way to just put our perspective out there and get it out in the media as well. And also, it's a great way to break down stereotypes or, correct misinformation as well. We also do local and national television and radio and print, national television and radio appearances. Alhamdulillah, we have established ourselves with reputable news outlets such as CDC, CTV, because if we don't take that initiative, then someone else will come and give that perspective, and sometimes it's not always popular perspective. So for advocacy, we have done, I mean, not myself, my colleagues have testified in Parliament before on issues such as Bill C-17, which is a reintroduction of the anti-terrorism provisions, Bill C-42, the secure flight, Bill 94, also issues of the Anti-Terrorism Act and the Canada's no-fly list or passenger protection program, and also issues regulating Canadian media. We conduct seminars for both public and private sector organizations, and one of the three of the most popular ones that we're asked to present is Islam Awareness or Islam 101. So these would be to places of employment or companies where they're wanting to be more familiar with Islam, or service providers. Alhamdulillah, in this day and age, I think most people are quite familiar with Muslim practices and beliefs, but sometimes we are still asked to come in and give this presentation. The presentation that I'm giving right now, which is Know Your Rights and Responsibilities, this is one of the most popular ones that we're usually invited to masjids or MSAs or different events to come and present about. We also present on media relations. This one's usually at the university level or high school level, where students are more interested in engaging with the media. So we will step in and make a presentation and teach them, you know, the do's and don'ts of dealing with the media, how the media works, and just the basics so that you're better aware of how to kind of get involved with the media. Some of the publications that we have, so one is the Ramadan Publicity Resource Kit. So we talk about just how to get more involved with the community when Ramadan comes, just to, you know, get your non-Muslim neighbors involved. We also have these 3 guides, which is a healthcare provider's guide to Islamic religious practices, and we also have one for educators, for employers, and for, there's one more, journalists. So, for example, if you want to explain to your child's teacher about Islamic religious practices and what they would need to know about having a Muslim student, it's like a pre-printed guide. We sell them at a nominal cost just to cover the fees, maybe $2 to $3, and you could give it to your child's teacher, so they wouldn't be aware about issues of hijab, fasting in Ramadan, letting them take it easy during PE. Eid, how it's kind of, we follow the moon, so it's short notice when we can tell them when Eid is, so the child won't be coming, etc. Islam tells us that we must obey the law of the land. So, and alhamdulillah, there's no law here in Canada that contradicts our beliefs as Muslims. So if it is a Canadian law, we must follow that law. We need to take responsibility for ourselves and our family. We need to take care of, our family, do the best we can to get a job, not live off of welfare, if we can help it. We should also help others in the community. I think Brother Ziad mentioned, helping at the food bank, blood drive, your child's school, any charity. It doesn't have to be a Muslim cause. Get out there, help with the park cleanup, local, organize one. Show that, we as Muslims don't just care about ourselves, we care about everybody, we care about Canada. We are there to, people should not cringe when they see Muslims moving into the neighborhood. They should be happy that, oh, Muslims are coming, they're such great people, because that's what Islam tells us to be. So we shouldn't just be too busy with ourselves and our, just about Muslims, we should be caring about other people as well. For the Canadian Charter, so I'm going to kind of distinguish between the Human Rights Code and the Charter. So the Canadian Charter, it only applies to when a government, is one of the parties in a complaint. So if you have a complaint against RCMP or CSIS, that would be a charter. And I'm not a lawyer, so I'm trying to convey this. And if I make any mistakes, brothers, please correct me. Or if you work for the government, for example, and you have a workplace discrimination case, that would be a charter complaint. So this would deal with issues such as Sunday closing laws, parental rights, school prayers, religious institutions, and sectarian schools. Now, the more common aspect would be the Human Rights Code. So the Human Rights Code is what you turn to for any other case, for any other discrimination case that you've had. So there's 2 levels, federal and provincial. The federal regulates employers and service providers at a federal level, and the provincial is anything else. They're both similar in structure. The process isn't too important as to know the difference. Everyone has a right to equal treatment with respect to services, goods, and facilities, employment, occupancy of accommodations, so renting or buying a home, entering into contracts, or joining trade unions without discrimination based on religion. So you should not, nobody can discriminate against you, for getting a job, for renting a home, doing some sort of business contract because you're a Muslim. If that has happened, then that is not allowed, and you should know your rights as to what steps you should take afterwards.
Assalamu alaikum. I do thank everybody who are here. My special message will be, whatever you learn here today, please take it to your family who are not here, or your friends, or your relatives.